So, welcome everyone to our second gathering of the Hoop of Evolving Elders on January 15th. And we're here in this ever expanding field, the spiral of life, and allowing it to touch us in new ways. And June's going to open for us.
Good morning, everyone. Just perhaps put your hands on your heart. And let's open this day as we open the new year. Let's imagine ourselves a seed that's been planted so that we can bring into the world a greater compassion, a greater owning of being a part of creating that world we all want. Imagine growing as that seed, first taking from the depths of the dirt beneath, pulling up the richness of the soil, what's been there for eons of time, enriching, growing, strengthening the roots of who we are. And as we begin to take in that richness, that depth, that unimaginable love, let it fill out the seed that we are and become the being that we are, creating anew each year. The being that believes that there is nothing that we can't forgive, that there is nothing that we can't have compassion and love and opening for. And as we grow stronger and bigger and reach out to the world around us, bring with the richness of that deep earth we've come from and share it. Share it with those we talk with, share it with those who see us but don't have that close attention to us. Know that every thought that you're thinking, every feeling that you're allowing yourself to feel, transmits out to the bigger world and touches everyone out there. Our energy, that energy that we can decide to be deep and compassionate and loving and kind, or that energy that we can shift in other places that might not help the world grow. Let us decide to be the seed of new openings, new awareness, new paying attention, new being a part of, no longer sitting back, no longer watching, but instead being, doing, allowing, growing. Let this day be the day that we say yes. We say yes to being alive, yes to being totally honest with ourselves and the world. Yes, with being compassionate, forgiving, strong, and ready to start this day, this year, in a whole new way, with love, compassion, with honesty, with depth. And then bring us all back into this space together, sharing all that we are becoming as that seed and that human being that has so much to offer. Taking a nice deep breath and rejoining here, opening your eyes and your heart. Aho.
I feel to pull on the thread of compassion. For many years, we heard, so much acts of kindness. And for myself, I'll just speak for myself. Compassion is the face of compassion is calling me forward. And what is that? And had the opportunity this weekend to be immersed in various experiences, um, exploring deeper this compassion, because compassion has an element to it, where that's active, that's like, as June was saying, it's alive, and 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 for me, it's somehow learning to meet the moment, and listening for how this expression can engage with others, and and whether it's one person or it's a community. And what was really interesting, that along with the compassion came a few things. And one of them was evolutionary resonance, that there was a resonance, an exchange of frequency. We've called it the home frequency, but an exchange of frequency that happens when I feel to take a step towards you, when I feel to put myself in an experience of being with others. And I think this meets something inside myself that has really wanted to um, express, be in service too. How can, I know, like, in the mornings I wake up and it's like, use these hands, use these ears, use these eyes, and my mind align with my heart so that I can be available, make myself available. And so I feel this being of compassion is calling all of us forward in a way that um, is enlivens the soul, that makes people feel safe, safe being with me, but also safe being in community. Because it feels like this world is so calling us forward, to create fields of trust. I never really thought about this, but fields of trust, because there's so much distrust and in the world and in our communities, and who do we trust and how do we? And I feel like this is one of those safe spaces. I think there's a lot of safe spaces. So one of the things I just want to share, this one thing, that this one person got up this weekend, and she is the initiator of Peace Tarpon Springs in Florida. And I was really floored, not just touched, by um, the what she was calling a trauma-aware community, not just one person or just an organization, but how to create a trauma-aware community. And I'm just putting my I want to learn, I want to understand more, but where we as communities face the challenges together. And I feel like this is somewhere that I'm feeling to, even open up in this space. What does that mean when you hear that? And because what they were speaking about, what she was speaking about, was the changes that were happening in the community. Because anyone, once you're working at that level, anyone and everyone has something to offer and begins to understand, they do, and the changes that have happened in that community. So I feel like that's something that I want to go deeper into. But that this, when I think of the spiral of life, and I'll end right here, it starts with that ignition point, that sense of use me, let this love move me into greater action, let this dreaming move me into greater connection, and really creating a hoop of a hoop of resonance for people to feel who they are. You can get that. So I'll end there, and I'm complete. Thank you. And it's open to anyone to come in as you feel that pulse moving in you.
Greetings. I'm feeling, of course, the depth, even being unfathomable of what we need in this line of compassion, of what it is that we have been able to reach in our own journeys within the inner world within us. One of the things that has brought that forward for me on a personal level is not every day, but I have been following the prayer for peace that 19 monks in the 2,300-mile walk from Texas to DC are nearing the end of their journey. And how they started off with almost nobody knowing. And now, this time with all the states that they've been walking through, thousands lined the streets, hoping to maybe get a flower from one of them, and also making their own offerings to them for what they're doing, which is a simple flag that has the peace dove with all the colors of the rainbow, and it just says "Walk for Peace." This is a calling and a crying for us to unite as common unity, right? And yet, this morning, we've had a bit of an eventful morning, and that's for myself, anyways. We're on call with United Nations Peace Builders Network that we're a part of from
Indigenous peace building
Indigenous
community.
peoples, yeah. And we'll talk about the work that is so greatly needed. And the energy and the vibration and frequency of how much of Mother Earth is is at war, with maps showing these places around the world. And then following that, without going into any other detail, had a quick conversation, which we were on when we were coming on here, with great grandmother Mary Lyons of the Anishinaabe people out in Minnesota, asking her if she was going to be attending the Indigenous Peoples Week at the UN. She was there last year, and we've come to know her and love her and her walk, and her teachings, as she's been out as one of the elders of many years now. But she described how the horrific travesty that's going on in Minnesota with ICE.
But not just in the cities, at the reservations. She said there's ICE stationed at the entries of all the reservations in Minnesota. And they're now having to work to get people. ICE is not accepting their tribal IDs, their tribal identifications. So they're having to cooperate to generate IDs that ICE will accept at the reservations.
But not only that, she describes the horrific daily scenario of ICE just busting into Target, Walmart, just dragging people out, busting into schools, even on the reservation, and pulling children out, and they're taking them. The community is, of course, in a depth of fear, where people are no longer leaving their homes or beginning not to send children to school. And others from the non-Indigenous communities are doing what they can to bring food and supplies to families. And there too have to be careful because they're being watched. I share this with us today. It's like how our work of bringing coherence and common unity, common unity is occurring in the atmosphere of fear, where people are finding the courage to come together to help each other against great injustice, great wrongs. But at the same time, how do you bring coherence? And as she is doing as an elder, keeping her own spirit as neutral as possible, but feeling everything around her, to families, Native families. She says all those that have been taken so far, a third of them are all Native Americans that are enrolled people. And although they're mixed tribes, great diversity of enrollment tribal families, and wrong color, they're brown. There's just absolutely no recognition. Our work is we are being put to task to not separate ourselves in our own walk of coherence and peace and loving waters against the other energy that is countering dramatically, significantly, and how our work is to be brought together and to help those who are in that place that we're not at this time. Here in Arizona, ICE has they're here, but they're not like in Minnesota. The state is shut down. They're not letting people in or out. Businesses are closing, afraid of ICE charging in. Farmers are hurting because even with documented visas of workers that come to pick the fields, they're not coming. Farmers and community are uniting because they have no way to pick their fields. They're losing crops. The devastation is horrific from what she is sharing with us in this call. And so I just wanted to say it's like bringing, children to school who have not had a breakfast, who have not had clean clothes, or how do you expect people to learn when they're hungry? And we're talking, of course, about children. And of course, her situation in Iran with her family. This is where we're at. I see the world that David Hawkins in Power versus Force reflected in this study that was in this book, revealed where we're at today. So I don't know if we're actually gaining any ground, but we're doing our best to hold the ground we still have on a global scale, but especially here in this country now. So I'm not doing what I can. In the past, I would carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. But today, I've learned that through a sister who's no longer here, I said that the weight of the world isn't for your shoulders. It's to help others share together, hand to hand, heart to heart, on how we deal with that. The shoulders, she says, are for all the joy that you should be carrying into the world. And so it's that balancing act. It's the cosmic dance, I think, is what Khurshid spoke, that we're in today. It's a serious dance. So let's dance. Oh.
One of the things that great grandmother Mary also brought in was that we need to set aside our anger and have compassion for those that are for ICE agents and the people that send them and the people that support them, that we need to have compassion for them as well and understand, take their trauma into consideration.
He reflected back on Standing Rock.
Because it is about all of us coming together as human beings.
Cool.
Good morning, Kate Culver, in the land of the Cherokee on the Little Tennessee River. What heavy stuff we're going through these days. And I'm constantly being reminded of our credo or our statement to aspire to of forgiving the unforgivable. And it sounds like that's kind of, in a way, what this woman is saying, that we still need to pray for those who are creating the suffering for those we love. It's been difficult to stay grounded and remember that I am not in some of these places. Were I in some of these places, I would be in the street. And I would allow my frustration and my anger to show in those situations. But since I'm not, since where I am, I'm not experiencing this firsthand, I really try very hard to hold that space of not getting caught up in the loop. And I'm not in denial, yet I have to hold the light when I can, where I can. I want so much to be able to do something, and yet where I am right now, there's nothing to do other than hold the light. And excuse my tardiness. I So grateful to be here with all of you and to hear your hearts. It means so much. I place the feather back. Thank you.
I am Dinama, and I live here in Oregon. I think my watershed is the Rogue River, and the name Rogue came from the indigenous tribes who were here and who were taken from this earth as a conquering of the white man, as we call him. But I moved here to become part of a commune back in 1980. And my eldest son, Joshua, was born in that commune and raised in that commune, which has been his learning of the human ways. And I saw him as a child of the Creator. And now he'll be 49 in March, and he has been placing a emoji, which is the symbol of yin and yang, the constant forces of the dark and the light, the masculine, the feminine, which is why we have our perspective of duality, because it does cycle, and it shows light on what is most significant in our earth journey of experience, to remind us of the balance. And now, right now, we're all seeing the imbalances of the unhealed wounds of our brothers and sisters, of our human family. They're being highlighted to be seen without shades or cover-ups or, quote, false news. We're seeing the blatant, authentic reality of our co-creation as a human consciousness. And our greatest power, as I see it, is in knowing the power of our intention, the power we have been socialized or propagandized away from our true heritage as earthlings. And we are reclaiming that because we are being knocked around by the imbalances that we have. You know, the ego says these are not good, this is what's right, so join that. It's not that. It's our whole, the whole of our spirit, the whole of our creator being that is really being called out by these conditions of our consciousness. And by choosing, and we can be marching, or we can just be praying and holding, as has been spoken, holding the light, so that we choose very consciously and deliberately how we want to be together. And of course, it begins with our own authenticity. I come to see one of my weakest spiritual muscles is self-love. Really loving all these errors or mistakes, or, feeling guilty about whatever I have experienced, which has really taught me how to love and how to live and how to create and to know my sovereignty and exercise my sovereignty as a creator. When I first came to Heart Resonance, it was with our dear Shelley Darling. It was the most powerful energy I had ever experienced. True, authentic heart intelligence, that unconditional love. These monks who are marching to Washington are fueled by that unconditional love. They are exemplifying for all of us how that can be expressed, how we can love one another and ourselves and create from that place that wholeness. So the light and the dark have purpose and balance and wisdom and direction that has been, put to the bottom of the ocean, turned upside down. We're turning it right side up again. And it's full of silt and muck and mire, but we're washing it clean with our compassion and our love. I recently, in fact, last week, unexpectedly got out of bed to go to the bathroom, and I tripped and fell. I do this like 2 or 3 times a night, and I do it, mindfully and carefully. But this was like, I felt like my angels said, okay, we're going to do this, and it's going to wake you up. You're going to remember who and how you are. But the fall did wake me up and did give me that information that I needed to know that I am in this, and I have a way of being that needs to express itself in more ways than I have been. It's like called that wake-up call. And now I have been in the process of healing and praying and working with my inner wisdom, honoring myself in a way I haven't been. I've been so angry at getting old. It's like, no, I don't want to be old. I don't like all these challenges, and I can't dance like I used to and do all the things. But what I can do is even more powerful because it has a collective purpose. So that is my most current lesson of life, and I offer this as an elder, which all of us here are aware of, our power of presence, our power of intention, and our power as co-creators. And so let that be our purpose. So I am complete.
Good morning. I'm June. I live in California in this Bay Area. I come from the land of the Ohlone, and my watershed is Lake Tahoe in the Pacific Ocean. With all that's been said today and with all that's going on, when I ask myself, what is it that I can do, regardless of my age, regardless of my health, regardless of anything else, what's the one thing I could offer of myself in this world today? And the thing that comes up for me most strong is to be brave, honest, and willing to say what's so, without the anger, without the angst that goes along with it, that only creates more angst coming back at me. And it's like, how willing am I to be bold enough, strong enough, compassionate enough to say what I believe, to say what I'm seeing, to say what I think needs to happen without igniting purposefully anyone else. I find that so much of what I'm hearing is said with so much anger and is said with so much skewed way of looking at things. It's hard to even see the truth in something today, and so often because it's just turned a little bit this way or a little bit that way to make someone believe something that isn't so. And so I'm asking myself, where is the strength within me to simply say what I believe to be true, and to say it in a way that doesn't ignite in any more than is necessary? It's not that I don't want to ignite people to hear me and to change perhaps how they're feeling, or to see something they haven't been able to see before, but I don't want to ignite any more anger, any more pain than I have to. I've been visiting my husband every day now for almost 4 weeks in the hospital. And as I look at each of the patients, so many of them unable to take care of themselves, so many of them unable to ask for what they need. My heart just is breaking open at the amount of pain and the amount of inability to speak up and to say, what they need and what they want. And that's in a hospital. But how about out in the rest of the world? Where can we come forward in our honesty and our power and our strength, in our compassion and love, and still say what it is we want and don't want, and what's good and not good, in a way that can perhaps bring about more change? So that's where my energy is right now, is how do I speak my truth? How do I show my compassion? How do I give of my efforts, of my body, mind, and spirit, from a place of power from a place of truth and from a place of making a difference, making the kind of difference that I hope we all want to make in the world. So thank you so much for having a home I can come to and speak this way and feel this way. I love each one of you. Thank you.
Just as I reached, I thought Alba was reaching. So I was gonna wait. I'm Michelle, and I am on Sweetwater Creek, Upper Tampa Bay, home of the Tocobaga. You hear me okay? Yeah. I kind of waited. I think maybe I'm a little more settled now. I've been feeling so emotional. I feel like for this group, it's like, what's new? But because for some reason I get in here and my emotions just like surface. Uh, but I've been really emotional lately, and it's like these are the best of times, these are the worst of times. That's what I feel like. It's the other day I picked up this feather to share because it's so it's probably blurring right into my blurred background because it's so fuzzy and yet it's transparent. I don't know why this one just appealing to me lately. I almost feel like it's how I have to be. Don't take shape. I think I told you about that song, and don't take shape. For some reason, it was just settling me. It's like, don't grab too hard. Don't light on anything for too long, because everything is changing. And I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, put that back. Um, when we first opened the circle, I wanted to say yes. I'm saying yes. June, you brought us in about saying yes, and then when I did the water blessing with Shelley in the Compassion Florida, I kind of needed her to twist my arm because when she asked me to do it, I was like, oh, I don't know, I was like, I didn't know how many people were going to be there. I didn't know what song to do. It was just like, blah. Um, but then she said to me like the day before, "Oh, come on, you got to do it." And I was like, "Okay." So I just needed that a little tug. And also because you were saying what about the song, which was the song I was thinking of, which didn't have anything to do with water. Initially, when you asked me, I'm like, "Oh, I've got that song about where water flows into my own Sweetwater Creek," and I'm like, "Oh, I need a piano." I just like so I backed away from it. Then when you said that, it was like, what about the song you borrowed the line from me? And it was say yes to your inner journey. Say yes to earning our heart wings. Say yes to the oneness of belonging. We're becoming one with everything. Yeah, I realized that's the first time I've been singing these songs online for groups like y'all, and not to diminish us with the little, and I think that's the first time I've done that in a real crowd of people that are standing there on the land with me, and I made some mistakes and stuff, but it didn't matter because again it was that resonance, and it was when June spoke about that that impeller kind of to say yes to. This morning in Morning Fire, that they were reading the Mayan calendar, and I just felt that ignited, that yeah. And I thought of another song that I wrote when my grandchildren were young teenagers, and it was "Saved to Be Seen." And that's why I couldn't hear you when I came on this morning, because I had put on my interface and I was gonna play it just because we'd hit all the themes, and I hadn't thought of it in a while. You can be exactly who you are. You are a bright light, a shining star. Uh, but now it's time for you to rise, illuminate the skies. And it just seemed to go with the Mayan calendar. And anyway, so this morning I couldn't really hear you until I unplugged. And then you were talking about trust and being safe. And I feel like I still haven't said anything. And I feel like, in a way, my life has never been better. I've never been as coherent, never been as synchronous and connected, and yet we've never had times like this. It's never been this bad either, you know. It makes me think of like morphic resonance or something, like all the light comes in at the darkest places, And lately I found myself saying to people, don't ask that question. Why do you want to ask that question? That question, like, how much more can I take? Like, I don't know how much more I can take. It's like I hear people saying that, and I'm thinking, do you really want to know that? Because from a science of mind perspective, it's like, watch out when you ask questions like that. Be careful what you're asking for. Do you want to know how much you can take? But sometimes I feel like, as a collective, that's kind of what we're asking. How much is it going to take? How much is it going to take for us to wake up and realize our oneness? I just had some really kind of cool things happen, and I'll try to be brief. I know I told y'all I reunited with my sister after years of just kind of crossing her off my list, and I think it was mutual. And she's a real MAGA person, so. But now we are so close. I mean, we're talking every day, and I've been helping her clean out her house. And so then the whole time bank issue was coming up for me, because my daughter's friends are trying to help me with the stuff that needs to be done on my house, but they're trying to get me to do things and give me a little money. And I'm like, it's not really money that I need. I'm like, I think we need to start thinking differently. It's like when I do something for my sister, I turn around and then somebody's offering to do something for me. And it's like things are working out. And it's like, I think we have to recognize that the universe is reciprocal, not necessarily transactional, And it's like more like that time bank perspective. Well, I say this in a writing group, a new writing group that I just joined, kind of got a scholarship to do it with. And this guy is like, I'm really involved in Tampa Bay Time Bank. We have one now. And he's like, let me give you my phone number. And then I go the next, like 3 days later, to the Florida Compassion. And what's one of the ingredients of a compassionate city is time banking. And y'all know what this is, right? I mean, it's service, and it's your hours, it's your time that's valuable. And so anyway, just last night, I ended up talking to the coordinator for the Tampa Bay Time Bank. I was going in online to look for a phone number, and she messaged me right then and said, good to see you're looking into it. Would you like to have a conversation? And we talked last night, and she kept using the word synchronicity, and apparently where I'm taking my writing group, the time bank's involved with them, and I told them what I've been doing for my sister is helping her declutter her house, and that I wanted to help others, with this issue that I think is kind of a hidden issue, especially for seniors, and unclutter, organize. And so she gets me in the time bank, and the very first off request is for someone to help them declutter and organize their apartment. And she lives right near where I go to the creative writing class. And I'm like, this just couldn't even be. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, now I'm going on and I'm probably off track. But anyway, I am so hopeful. I'm so hopeful. I've gone back to my playback group, which is an improv, right, where you play back people's stories. And this week it's hunger and homelessness. Next week, and it's a radio station. And I'm feeling all this weave of the people that work at the WMNF. It's not. It's like public radio. Nonprofit. And it's the same people, the farmers market, and it's the same people as Compassionate Florida, and it's the UU, and it's the Science of Mind, and there's just this rich weave, and it's all feels so like it's becoming, like there's these thick strands. It reminds me of Strength Finders. I will stop now, sorry, but when they talk about a young child's brain, it's very diffuse. And when you get older, it becomes much less diffuse. But certain strands in your brain becomes very much more connected, where it's all working together. Your strengths begin to work with each other, so that you have this like thick weave of these 20 of these, these strengths that you have that are particular to you. And it's just the opposite of a child's mind. And I feel like that's the way we're becoming as a collective, that we are now kind of learning how to operate on those strands, in this sort of thick weave that's, I guess we're weaving and discovering at the same time. I don't know. I go from just abject brokenheartedness to just delightful hopefulness, and I don't know how to hold it, but I'm thankful for this group, and because we're doing it together, I think that's the only way we can do it. And anyway, I'm just grateful. Passing my pathetic.
Thank you, Michelle. It's just when you open with saying the best of times and worst of times, it really resonated and reminded me and of the things that you were talking about, because we're looking at things are getting extreme, but that's when they separate, when you look at the yin and yang. And the fear that's being generated and the anger and everything that's trying to claw its way back to a state that we've already walked past as human beings. Like they're trying to go backwards to something that we've already evolved past. Some people are clinging desperately to, I think, what we've already evolved beyond, and they're trying to put it back in a bottle. But it's as frightening as it is, regardless of how it turns out, it will collapse. Nothing lasts forever. It's like empires collapse. But people are building peaceful, compassionate communities to replace it with, like building a firm foundation of respectful, loving people that want to make space for everyone. as things get really bad, when people get hungry, we learn how to support each other. Allies are gathering to do shopping and to pick up kids for people that are afraid to do that, or that don't feel safe doing that. I've been seeing on my YouTube feed, there's this man that pops up. I don't know if he's like he has a lot of interesting facts about plants and foods, things that weren't food or things that became food, things that saved people when their food sources were threatened, how some other food arose. And all of these unusual plants and foods and normal ones that we might not know the history of. And it just reminded me, I'm so grateful that there are people out there doing that kind of research, that are bringing back old information, indigenous knowledge, and saying, look, these people were almost wiped out and this one plant saved them. Information that we can be collecting and using now. And a piece of video that I saw yesterday, I was stunned. It said before World War II, most people grew a lot of their own food. And it wasn't until after the industrialization, after World War II, that people were completely dependent on someone else, that most people became completely dependent on stores to eat. So given the threats of climate change and I don't even want to say directionally, a small percentage of people trying to hold on to power and control, we have solutions and people are building them. People are getting together. Institutions like time banks that have been in place but are now becoming critical. I think my hope is that we will go back to this kind of community being normal. We now have the technology and the means of travel that doesn't have to be within walking distance. Like, we know that we formed large communities. So the solutions are there. We just have to, I think it is love and compassion that will overpower the people trying to use force and control to keep the system going. I think we can dismantle it rather than break it and have it fall apart. I'd be joyfully, consciously dismantled or rebuilt or not crash. I'm sorry, there was one more thing that I wanted to say that was kind of important, and now I've lost it. So I'll leave it there. If it comes back, I'll come back in. Yeah, it's gone. Sorry. But it was about what's in place now and all the things that we're doing. So thank you.
I'd like to invite a few very deep, relaxing, rhythmic breaths. Because this is the time of times, right here, right now, and what's been shared. And just to be able to relax in and find your rhythm within this, and resonance within this, in your own heart. Because it all begins in here. It feels really important to acknowledge and thank ourselves for continuing to show up and to listen for what is the next step for each one of us within the connection communities. I feel family is really important. And it doesn't mean necessarily origin family, although we would love that to be true. But that it used to be said, to find your tribe, you got to go find your tribe. And I used to hear that a lot, like, what's my tribe? And I feel that this communion, this conversation of common unity. And it's making me really feel like, okay, like it would be really good to put up, to have a place where people can find out what they can do and where they can show up. I mean, there's so much places that we can show up. And for me, it really feels important to be grounded, to be anchored in the wholeness of self. Like that's part of the importance to create a culture of care, is that we can support people, and be supported in loving. What is loving presence? Really, what is an essential elder? It's just being able to speak the truth and to be able to trust the wisdom that comes through that next person or that next situation, and to create a viable vessel for people to, first of all, now it's really becoming clear, to feel safe, to be and supported, So there's lots from this sharing that I can see, it's just, I feel more solid by listening to each one of you. I feel, yeah. And I feel like this hoop of evolving elders is sailing. That we so I'm hearing lots of conversation outside that. So in that case, that's enough. And to those who are listening, please go to lovingwaters.life, and you will be able to sign in and be able to become part of this family. And we meet every first and third Thursday, and that we stay connected, and we keep evolving this expression of love, connection, and so be it, and so it is. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and stay connected. And we will make it a way that, and you can go to the Facebook group right now. It's a private Facebook group where it is safe, and you can communicate and feel, ask questions. So with that, do we want to do a short little closing, or Daniel, did you want to say something? No. All right. Well, let's just leave it in the space. Know that you are love. Put a glow on. Blessings, everyone. Take care. Bye for now.